I am originally from Alberta in Canada. I moved away from there quite a number of years ago, but I go back regularly and I have family who are still there. So to some extent, if they were to separate, it would affect me. First of all, there are some ideological differences between Alberta and a lot of the rest of Canada. Now, I tend to think that this is probably a terrible idea. So the plus is they say, well, we're a net contributor. For a long time, there's these transfer payments, and in the transfer payment scheme, Alberta has been a net contributor rather than a net recipient. And so they'll say, okay, well, we would be so much better off if we had not had to give away all this money to the rest of Canada. I think that's a bit naive. First of all, unfortunately, you're going to be landlocked. We have these natural resources, but in order to export them, we have to go through one of these countries, and they will charge us a significant toll. There's no access to the sea. The second reason is I think mostly the Albertan leadership, and frankly, this is driven from the Albertan people, are not that smart. Look, here's the reality. Alberta should have been Norway, okay? You can just look at how Norway took their natural resources money, they deployed it very effectively, and as a result, they are the richest nation on earth. They have the largest sovereign wealth fund. They have negative debt to GDP. They have the ability to pay a huge sum of money to each of the people in their country. Now, Alberta also had a trust fund that they set up, and they just horribly mismanaged it. They stopped contributing to it. They basically took a bunch of the proceeds that they had and they basically just gave them away to people. Alberta should have done really well. Alberta had all the resources, everything going for them, and they mostly squandered it. They have short-termism. It's quite terrible, quite terrible. The third objection I have around it is, relatively speaking, life in Alberta, quite good. Lower taxes, higher wages, lower costs in a bunch of regards, etc. So these things are all great. The problem is, if you're your own country, it's not like all those expenses just vanish and you just get to keep all the benefit. This is something I think people don't really think through that well. So now you have to do all your foreign affairs yourself. So this includes military, defense, everything related to dealing with, for example, having embassies around the world. You have to establish diplomatic ties. You have to negotiate. All this stuff is like a very heavy lift. It's not particularly easy or fast to go and do all of this stuff. And so what is that going to cost in resources? Now, if you're a big country, you can amortize those resources across many people. Alberta is a relatively small province, right? Talking about around 3-4 million people. So it's just like you don't have that many people to amortize all of this across. Are you going to set up embassies with almost 200 countries around the world? What kind of negotiating power are you going to have? How is that going to work? It's quite complex to figure out how that would work. A Canadian passport is a really powerful travel document. It's a wonderful document to have. The Albertan passport is not just going to inherit all of that stuff. I think that becomes a fundamental challenge for the province if they were to become a country. And to me, that's pretty problematic.